Welcome back to my YouTube channel, The Scenic Traveler. Today, I'm taking you along on my adventures through one of Colombia's most magical places, Salento and the stunning Cocora Valley. In this video, I'll show you exactly how to get there, where to stay, the best hiking trails, and all the little secrets that can make or break your trip. We'll hike through clouds, meet local coffee farmers, ride in traditional Willys Jeeps, and I might even try my hand at Colombia's national sport, Tejo. And spoiler, it does involve gunpowder. And if this spot in Colombia may look a little familiar to you, this region actually helped inspire Disney's Encanto, which you'll see with the colorful town, misty mountains, and towering wax palms. So whether you're planning your own Colombian adventure or just love to travel virtually, this guide will give you the full experience. No filter, just real travel tips from real experiences. So grab your coffee and let's explore one of South America's most beautiful regions together.
We're up early this morning to our flight from Medellin to Pereira, and we got up really early to get on this flight, and we'll get there at about 8 a.m.
Nestled in Colombia's coffee region, Salento and the Cocora Valley showcase some of the country's most breathtaking landscapes. Salento was founded in 1842, which was once a vital stop along the royal road that connected Bogota to Popayan. The star attraction, the Cocora Valley, is home to Colombia's national tree, the Quendo wax palm, which can reach heights of up to 200 feet, making them the tallest palm tree in the world. While these palms once faced threats from deforestation and farming, the valley became a protected area in the 1980s, turning into a symbol of Colombia's conservation success. Getting to this region is relatively straightforward. We flew from Medellin to Pereira, which was a quick and easy 30-minute flight that cost each of us around $50. But you've got options as well. You can also fly into the Armenia airport, which is actually a little bit closer to Salento. From the airport, we got a taxi and it took us straight to our hotel in Salento, and was less than an hour's drive through winding mountain roads with incredible views. If you're traveling from other parts of Colombia though, you do have several options. From Medellin, you can fly like we did or take a 6 or 7 hour bus ride to Armenia's terminal, then catch a shared minibus to Salento for just a few dollars. For those starting in Cali, there are daily buses to Armenia, where you can then catch a regular transportation to Salento.
We officially made it to Salento. We took a taxi, which is about an hour from the Pereira, where we flew in from Medellin this morning. And now we can't check into our hotel for a few hours, so we're going to get breakfast and a big cup of coffee because we were up very early, but excited to explore today.
Salento is exactly what you picture when you think of a perfectly preserved Colombian pueblo. The main street, Cal Real, is lined with vibrant buildings painted in every color imaginable, from deep purples and bright yellows to soft blues and bold reds. These traditional houses feature wooden balconies overflowing with flowers and artisan shops selling everything from locally woven ponchos to handmade jewelry. The heart of the town is Plaza Bolivar, which you'll find locals gathering under palm trees and children playing. In the evenings, the plaza comes alive with food vendors selling traditional arepas and empanadas. The town has a variety of great restaurants, cafes, and bars to enjoy during your visit as well. My best friend and I are actually both plant-based and had no issues finding spots with great vegan or vegetarian options. Now let me tell you about one of Salento's best-kept secrets, the Alto de la Cruz viewpoint. To get there, you'll need to climb about 250 steps starting from the edge of the town. Yes, the climb is steep, and yes, you'll probably need to stop for breaks, but trust me, the views are worth it. There is something magical about watching the town go beneath you or see the entire valley spread out before you with the Andes Mountains creating a dramatic backdrop. The viewpoint has several levels with benches where you can catch your breath and take in the different angles of the town. On a clear day, you can see all the way to the snow-capped peaks of Los Nevados National Park. Pro tip, you can go there at 5 p.m. to catch the golden hour when the sun hits those colorful buildings just right. It makes the whole town glow. And don't forget to bring your camera, but honestly, photos don't really do this place justice. And just remember to pack some water for that climb and maybe save that coffee tasting for after you come down. Next up, we headed to one of the local coffee farms, which is something I have been very much looking forward to. Colombia's coffee region is iconic, known for producing some of the world's best coffee thanks to its unique climate and altitude. They're a key part of Colombia's culture and community. As soon as we arrived, we were welcomed by the earthy aroma of coffee trees stretching over rolling hills.
All right, so we're at a coffee tour right outside of Salento. So we're going to spend the next few hours learning about the area and the coffee making process.
Walking through the rows of plants, our guide explained how the coffee beans are carefully cultivated here. The coffee plants are grown at high altitudes, often between 1,200 and 1,800 meters above sea level. That elevation, along with the warm, misty climate, creates the perfect conditions for growing beans with complex flavors. So every cup you sip has this depth that is hard to find elsewhere. They walked us through each step of the process as well, from picking the cherries to dyeing, roasting, and grinding the beans. I'd seen coffee in my cup 1,000 times, but watching it go from plant to mug right before your eyes was truly incredible. You gain a whole new appreciation for each sip when you know what it goes into it. Then of course, we got to try the coffee. I'm not a coffee expert, but even I could taste how fresh it was, smooth, a bit fruity, and with this subtle sweetness that Colombian coffee is famous for. Each cup tasted like it was telling a story, one filled with the hard work of local farmers and the vibrant flavors of the region. So if you're planning a trip here, I highly recommend setting aside a few hours for a coffee tour. Not only is it a fascinating experience, but it's also a way to support local farmers who are so passionate about their craft. And trust me, after visiting, you'll never look at your morning coffee the same way again. One thing to keep in mind while traveling through this area is the weather. It's definitely as diverse as the landscape. Salento and the Cocora Valley have a high-altitude subtropical climate, so even though you're near the equator, the temperatures stay surprisingly mild. Expect daytime highs around 65 to 75 degrees Fahrenheit or 18 to 24 degrees Celsius, with cool mornings and evenings that can drop to around 50 degrees Fahrenheit or 10 degrees Celsius. So definitely pack layers, as you'll find yourself reaching for a sweater in the morning only to shed it by midday. This region is lush and green thanks to the frequent rain showers. It's a good idea to carry a light rain jacket or umbrella just in case it rains at any time, especially in the afternoon. In the Cocora Valley, mist and fog are common, adding to the magical, mystical vibe, but making things a little damp. On the other hand, in Salento's town center, the weather is generally a bit more dry, though clouds do roll in pretty often. Whether it's rain or shine, though, the beauty of this place doesn't change, but being prepared for unpredictable weather can make your visit a little bit more enjoyable.
It's another beautiful morning in Salento. We're up a bit earlier today because we're heading to the Cocora Valley to do the 6-hour hike, which we've heard is just better to get an early start because sometimes the weather in the afternoon becomes either a little bit rainy or a little bit cloudy as well. So we're here to have breakfast, and I'll put the link to the restaurant that we're at because they also offer lunches to go. So if you're heading to do some hiking or some long bus rides, you're able to pick up that as well, which we find to be really convenient. So we're gonna have some PB&J for lunch, and after breakfast we're gonna head to the town square to pick up a Jeep where they'll take you to the Cocora Valley to do some hiking. We're in Salento in February, which is some of their drier months. January and February are their drier months. There's 2 months, I believe July and August are also a bit drier. It does apparently tend to rain a lot around here. So if you're doing the Cocora Valley, and specifically the hike that is one of the more famous ones, it's the think about 7-8 kilometer hike. It does apparently get quite muddy, so we're hoping that it's not going to be muddy enough that we need to buy rain boots, but those are readily available to rent around town or even at the Cocora Valley entrance itself.
On our next day, we were up bright and early, ready to head to the Cocora Valley for the legendary 6-hour hike. This hike is one of the most popular in Colombia, so let me break down exactly how to get there, what you should bring, and what to expect when you arrive. To start, getting to the Cocora Valley from Salento is pretty straightforward. The most common way is by hopping on one of the iconic Willys Jeeps from Salento's main square, Plaza Bolivar. These Jeeps are classic and colorful, often packed with other travelers. They leave every hour starting around 6 a.m. with more frequent departures as the morning goes on. The ride takes about 25 minutes and costs about 4,000 pesos per person, or roughly $1. If you're traveling with a group or want flexibility, you could also book a private Jeep for around 50 to 60,000 pesos, which is closer to $12 to $15. But the shared ride is part of the fun here. Once you arrive at the trailhead, you'll notice a small ticket booth where you'll pay an entrance fee. Currently, it's at around 5,000 pesos or a little over $1 to access the trail. But keep in mind there are several checkpoints along the hike where you do need to pay an additional fee if you want to explore specific areas, like the Hummingbird Sanctuary, which is about 10,000 pesos or $250. So it's a good idea to have some extra bills on hand for those entry points and any snacks you might want to buy along the way. Now, when it comes to packing for this hike, definitely bring layers. The weather here can be unpredictable. Mornings often start off cool, then warm up, and by afternoon you might experience mist or even a light rain. So bring a rain jacket or poncho, sunscreen, and a hat. And I do recommend sturdy, waterproof shoes if you have them. The trail is often known for being quite muddy, especially in the cloud forest section, so you'll be glad you're prepared. Also, pack plenty of water and some snacks or pack lunch. While there are several spots where you can buy drinks and snacks along the way, options are limited and they tend to be a bit pricier since they're more remote. The Akim Sanctuary, for example, offers some light treats and drinks like hot chocolate, which is great for a little break in the middle of your hike, but generally bringing your own food will keep you fueled and allow you to stay on schedule. At the starting point of the hike, there are a few basic facilities, mainly restrooms and small stands selling snacks, coffee, and souvenirs. However, when you're on the trail, services are limited, so take advantage of these facilities before setting off. The hike itself is a loop trail and usually takes 6 hours to complete if you're moving at a moderate pace and taking some breaks for photos and snacks.
We're now doing the Cocora Valley. It's the main hike that you can do in the area, and I recommend going counterclockwise because you're going to get the beautiful view going in.
Now let me talk about the technical side of this hike, because honestly, it's sometimes not as straightforward as it sounds. The entire loop is about 10 to 12 kilometers, which is roughly 6 to 7 miles, and it took us a solid 6 hours with breaks though. One of the biggest things I will mention about this hike is that there is a fair amount of elevation gain, around 2,500 feet or 760 meters. So while the trail isn't overly steep in one go, it's a steady climb and you definitely feel it in your legs at times. One thing we noticed right away is that the trail can get incredibly muddy, especially after rain, which is pretty common in this area. We took the risk of just wearing our gym shoes, but you would not regret wearing hiking boots if you have them. Also, bring a hiking stick or pick one up along the way if you find yourself sometimes needing that extra help to balance you on uneven surfaces. It sounds minor, but the extra balance really helps on the muddy and rocky sections. If you want to head up to the Hummingbird Sanctuary, you'll take a detour from the main loop that adds about 45 minutes to an hour to the hike. It's a bit of a climb, but I've heard it's well worth it, seeing that the hummingbirds can be very up close and it is really incredible. And they do have a little hut where you can rest and enjoy hot chocolate. The last thing to know is that because of the elevation and mix of open fields and dense forest, you'll get a little bit of everything with the weather. We had moments of hot sun, and then 10 minutes later we were surrounded by cool mists. So definitely bring layers and don't forget a rain jacket or poncho just in case.
Alright, well I recommend if you're doing the main hike in the Cocora Valley that you take some parts a bit carefully because it can get pretty muddy and steep. We're here on a pretty dry day and there were parts that were still pretty slippery, so come with shoes that have some grips, or again, you can rent rubber boots around town or at the entrance of the hike.
Now to one of the absolute highlights of the hike, and the spot where everyone stops for photos. It's the section where the famous wax palm trees are. These towering trees are the tallest palms in the world, reaching up to 200 feet, and they're like anything I've ever seen. This part of the trail opens up into a huge green valley dotted with palms that seem to stretch right up in the clouds. You can't help but stop here, and honestly, we spent ages taking photos just trying to capture the surreal beauty of it all. There's something so peaceful about this area too. If you're lucky, you'll have a moment when the valley is completely still, just mist and mountains in the background. And if you're a drone enthusiast, this is an amazing spot to get some aerial shots. Just be mindful of any crowds and keep it respectful. Once you pass the iconic photo section, you'll reach a small house, often referred to as La Casona, near the end of the trail. This spot has a few basic amenities, a small cafe where you can grab a quick bite or a cup of coffee, and some restrooms. We sat here for a bit, just enjoying the well-deserved rest and soaking in the views one last time. Now, if you're not up for the full 6-hour loop, there is an option to take a shorter route. Some people just hike directly to the valley and then backtrack after reaching the palm trees, which still gives you a taste of the experience but shaves off a few hours and elevation gain. But for anyone who loves nature and doesn't mind a full day out, the complete loop is absolutely worth it. My key tip though is to start early. We kicked off our hike around 8 a.m., which meant we beat the crowds to the photo spots and had cooler temperatures on the way up. Plus, the lighting in the morning is gorgeous for photos. And one last thing, don't underestimate the trail. It's longer and muddier than you expect, so come prepared with good shoes, plenty of water, and a backup battery if you're like me and take a ton of photos. This hike really is an adventure, and being prepared made it so much more enjoyable. After an unforgettable day in the Cocora Valley, we made our way back to Salento to do something I was very excited about: stocking up on coffee. Salento is packed with small shops that sell local coffee, and we couldn't leave without picking up some bags for ourselves and, of course, our family back home. It's one of the best souvenirs you can get from Colombia. Later that night, we decided to experience a little bit of Colombian culture and try our hand at the national sport of Tejo at one of the local bars. Tejo is wild. It's like cornhole, or as we call it in Chicago where I'm from, bags, but with a twist. As the goal is to toss a metal puck into a clay pit to explode little packets of gunpowder. It was loud, chaotic, and honestly so much fun. After a long day of hiking, relaxing with some local beer, and trying our hand at the national sport, it was the perfect way to end our time in Salento. And that's a wrap on our time here in Salento and the Cocora Valley. If you're planning a trip to Colombia, make sure to add this region to your list. You honestly won't regret it. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more travel guides and tips. Thanks for watching, and happy travels.